All right. Well, speaking of the world, we're going to go to the other side of it. North American qualifier for the RMR. And I mean, this one already, I guess there was one big upset that I think was surprising to say the least, is that Complexity don't make the cut. That I definitely had, after watching Complexity's recent performance, I definitely thought that Complexity were at least going to make top 6 in this one comfortably. I thought they would be in the mix. And for them not to make the cut, and in the fashion that they did, where it's just going all the way the distance, and you have this system in place where
they had a tiebreaker, if you remember. It was exactly. A tiebreaker they didn't get through on. Yes,
you have to go through a tiebreaker in order to make it through. It's so incredibly frustrating. Just because, I mean, you have a format where in the RMR, in the EU side of things, it's like, yeah, you eight teams, you split it down the middle. There you go. Here you have to figure out a way to have 6 teams instead of the 8. And so Complexity get left out in the cold, and Imperial in one of a deep run, one hell of a long day. Talking about long days of Counter-Strike, Imperial had to go all the way for that one. There you go. Imperial managing to go above the top and actually get that last spot. So you have O Nation, who, cold Taco, and now you got Imperial, the Fallen for FNX. Somehow, some way, they've managed to make it so that they can actually get into this event and play in front of their fans in Brazil. So, I mean, there's a lot to touch on there.
I've got an angle no one's brought up. Are you ready?
Go for it.
So there's 2 points I'm going to make. One, Imperial, it was bonkers they qualified for this. Because if people don't know, let me just run through how their tournament went. So they started off and they beat Azurus, who nobody gives a fuck about. Then they played and they lost in overtime to 9Z. Okay, that's not, by the way, if you know, 9Z is actually around their level. It's not even that big a diss. Okay, close game. Then they went and they lost to 00 Nation, their former teammates. So then they had to play against the team called Nouns, right? Oh, they played Team 1, rather. They played Team 1, fellow Brazilian team, really close series. They played Team Nouns. Team Nouns almost beat them on the first map, and the third map would have been Vertigo, which they never played Imperial, but they got through it. Then they played Pain Gaming, super close series. Then they played Call in another tiebreaker, beat them in the absolute dying rounds at the end of the whole game. So that took everything from the guys in Imperial. Are you ready for an angle that no one brings up because it destroys the whole last dance? First of all, this never was a last dance. So you're all going to think, no, Thorin, but remember, like, Bolts, Fallen, and Fur were in a really good SK Gaming lineup. That wasn't the one that won the major. Bolts wasn't in the team that won the major. They had, but then they had Fallen, Fur, and FNX were in the ones that won the major. FNX wasn't in the lineup now. He was the coach. And if you know how bad FNX was this year, that's the only reason they had a chance to qualify. I'm telling you right now, if FNX was playing, they don't qualify because who replaced FNX? Cello, the guy who actually had like his breakout tournament, even though he's mega deep into a career at like tier 3 and tier 2 that he's been on for years in Luminosity and these other squads, MIBR. Like, this is an example of where like that no narrative is actually actively harmful to the story of these players. Because if it was the last dance, they wouldn't have made it. Like, it actually was the fact that they brought in the Cello guy that was a game changer that got them through. And even then, like I say, there were 3 or 4 times they could have lost these scenarios. They wouldn't even have been in the last match. And if you look especially how the Complexity series played out at the end, that was the ultimate example of the one upside Imperial has in this game. They've got 2 technically. One is that Fur just chooses to go down to their level to play with Fallen, to play an Imperial when he could definitely be in a better team if he really gave a fuck about Counter-Strike. And the other angle is this: when they do get into really big games for them, which is low-level games, like it's the last match of the whole tournament, if they're playing against a young player or an inexperienced player, they do have an edge, because Fallen and Fur do play out clutch scenarios, do play out late rounds like a top pro does, and they put pressure on you. So if you're in a 1v2 against Fallen, what does everyone do? One guy defuses the bomb and one tries to pick up. Well, he always kills the first guy, and now he just gets the bomb planted for free. Like, in those scenarios, like, those guys are too inexperienced. They are seeing the names and just pissing their pants. Like, my joke on Twitter was, you know, the old thing about Fallen was, oh, he's the librarian because he makes the opposing arena turn into one. Like, joke, he's not even in arenas anymore now, and he wouldn't be making any of them turn into fucking libraries, except if he's in fucking Rio, by the way. Except he's not going to be in the playoffs there either, so don't worry about it. Now he's actually turning into rooms into kindergartens, because if you've got a bunch of little kids around, he'll make them just piss themselves and run around screaming and crying for their mum. That's all he can do now. But I tell you what, it works. That does work when you're in a close game. That does work when those guys haven't got the experience. So I thought in general, I don't give a fuck that Imperial qualified. Like, Saying you qualified out of the America's RMR is like saying you're the most fucking morally put together stripper on the pole, my dude. Like, it doesn't mean anything. As soon as you finish the sentence, it becomes way less interesting. So Imperial, whatever, at least they're there. They're sort of the America's version of outsiders. They'll at least make some of the lesser teams think it before they make it to the playoffs. That's good. Now, the complexity angle, I think, is brutal. Because when you go back and look, they lost against Team Liquid. That's easily the best team in the field. 0-0 Nation. Now, that one's a brutal one. That's one where it wasn't even the big pressure match. You should be winning that if you call. That's the one you should really look back and kick yourself. But I will also say, when you go to that match against Imperial, I don't want to hear any excuses if you're a complexity player. You had that game in your hands over and over and over again, but you let it go by playing silly Counter-Strike, being a bit scared at times. People were fragging out, playing a little bit more passive than they should. Don't go through a smoke and challenge him. It's Fallen back there, don't you know? Mate, it's busted up Fallen. This is like, you know, in the UFC, I always think the way you know the champion, because if you don't know the way the UFC matchmaking works, they're not idiots. When you were a former champion, they don't just throw you out and put you against bad people, because then you're already going down in stock. They purposely pair you against the next up-and-coming potential champion, because they want him, before you're totally washed, to get a win against you on his resume to build the hype that he'll be the champion next, right? In that scenario, right, this is exactly when, if you're a young player, you should want to play Fallen. And when you play him, you should play him as though he isn't some legendary player who's going to hold the angle. Oh, he always wins the round. He doesn't. They don't. Counter-Strike careers don't last that long. Now is when is your chance to beat Fallen, like 9Z did, like some of those teams were able to. This is what you got to be playing like. So I think in that scenario, Cole just psyched themselves out of that match. Like, they don't deserve to be at the major. Look, I know it's a fucked up scenario, but if you look at this tournament beforehand and you say, I'm sending this many teams, they definitely make it out. It's like you say, they wouldn't have been top 2. Like, it's shocking that EG made it out, but they'd be like in your top 4. You'd have had them top 4 to get out though. So I don't like, unlike the G2s of the world, I look at this one and I'm like, you guys just fucked this up. You guys lost the best of 3s. Like, no one made you do that.
Yeah, shot the bed a little bit on this one. I mean, that is really the conclusion that it comes to, because going into this group, it was a clear prediction, especially after the recent performance, where you're just like, yeah, okay, they're going to be in a top 4 to 5 sort of scenario here with the RMR, and they have to make it. They absolutely have to make it. And it really makes me wonder if there's going to be any kind of movements over on the complexity side of things, or if they're just going to take it on the chin and just keep with this roster, keep with this organization, and not make any changes, because this is definitely a must-win kind of scenario. So it does make me wonder if what they're going to be thinking about over there on the complexity side of things. But
and here's the saddest thing. They wouldn't have been like a big name team at the major doing big run. They could have done something though. They'd have been in with a chance to beat. They could have beat some. They could have won some BO1s. They could have been in a shot in a BO3 to maybe upset a big team. So this is actually really brutal for the development of the team. Yeah,
no, it's a painful one. But all right. So let's change gears here and talk about a team that you just mentioned, Evil Geniuses. I mean, there's a team that I think was catching. I mean, obviously, the team has become a meme itself. Evil Geniuses. I mean, once upon a time, one of the most prestigious organizations in esports in general, has just fallen so far. It feels like, in terms of just not even coming close to winning tournaments, and it looks so mismanaged in terms of they have no idea what they want to do with their brand anymore. They just have people who the new generation of people who move into esports and who have no idea what esports is actually about and what the internet used to be about. And so it's just this new breed of people that are now moving in because they have money and experience or whatever. And so they feel like they know what it is. And so that's essentially what Evil Geniuses have become, tragically. All right, so that sets up the brand itself. Now they also have this 15-man roster that they're talking about here with their CSGO side of things, where they're fielding multiple rosters in a tournament, Fragadelphia. So that's that. And then they go into this one where they have Vorborg, who's calling the shots, who used to be on Copenhagen Flames, building rosters up there. And they're actually going with a I guess what the weird one that kind of caught everybody off guard was going full on international with Neil and bringing him on board. Because you kept Breeze, you kept Cirque, you kept Automatic. You can't have more than 2 Europeans on the roster and still be considered a North American team, which is why they talked about not bringing on Valde. And so here we have the play where they decide, okay, then we're going to have Hext and we're going to have Nealon on board, with Nealon calling the shots at Kazakhstani. And so you're already just going, this is going to be rough. How is this going to pan out? Not a whole lot of confidence in this roster, considering Cirque and Breeze have just been not doing anything for freaking ever, it seems like. To the point where you got the Rat King who's making jokes about him. So the fact that Evil Geniuses are up in this group, in this RMR, if I was talking about Evil Geniuses, maybe I would have had them like going through sixth, and then it would have been a competitive sixth, as in like they had to fight tooth and nail to get there. For them to top the group 3-0 by defeating Nouns, by defeating Furia. I mean, Furia, and then 9Z as well, who showed to be definitely a team to keep an eye on, a threat. Gotta say, not too shabby. That's an interesting result from Evil Geniuses, and not saying. Well, maybe I do have to eat some crow on this one. I don't know. I don't think I was exactly saying like this is going to be a home run kind of play here with this new roster. Let's say I didn't have that much faith in the roster to start getting results this quickly. Thought if anything, it's going to take some time, but they really are picking up speed fast.
Especially because, like, look, even just getting the win over Eternal Fire at EPL was something. It showed like they've got some potential. Like the Zantares isn't a bomb, mate. Some of those players are experienced. They were the Space Soldiers players. Obviously, they have Woxic as well. They have sort of gradually get himself back in a form. But the thing for me, I thought about this tournament was, it's also like basically, people have been waiting for the old names to actually show something in this team. Like, actually, Cirque showed signs of life for once. It was actually Breeze was the one previously that was looking good. He was a cooler. Cirque had some big games. Automatic was actually fragging. Remember, that guy was playing Valorant until Stewie2K fucking came along, came to the wood fucking cabin. Like, what are you doing out here playing Valorant, old man Automatic? Don't you know I need you for one last run? Call it the last dance, motherfucker. It's like, Stewie, I don't know if I can't keep doing it, man. These NA teams, man. The older I get, the shitter they still are. Like, he's like, no, one last time, man. And then the best thing is, obviously, Stewie got bounced as well. So, like, actually, Automatic finally looks like he's picking up CSGO again, mate. He's played enough time to get rid of the ring rust. He was always a quality player. He was never bad. Now, he was mad overrated by some people, but he was always a solid enough player. He's starting to show signs. As you say, the Neelan guy actually seems that he's pretty legit. He's been a part, at least, of, like, teams that have been at LANs and have got some history in his team. The Hexed guy is out of nowhere for me. Like, I don't know where they picked this guy up. I haven't really been that impressed. There's also some other things that, you know what, we'll wait and see how those come out to play. I don't want to reveal all my cards. This is top trumps. You don't need to know what trumps I've got. But except the fucking fire ones. So all I'll say is, like, look, I don't think they're going to be like a big time team. I don't think they can do anything at this major. But I do think at least like the Vorberg angle seems all right. He has picked up very much Vorberg type players. Like, he's looking around tier 2 and tier 3 and trying to pick this guy or make a good move. This guy's cheap. He hasn't got to buy it. It does look like he's wheeling and dealing. My problem, like I always say, is just it's Evil Geniuses. Like, you're supposed to be shooting for the moon. You're supposed to try to be one of the best teams in the world. You're supposed to be a forethought that you qualified to the major, because when you get to the major, you're going to do damage. I don't know what this team is, but fair play, like you say, to 3-0 this one. It even had a close tiebreaker against Team Liquid, by the way, and actually made them really play. All in all, just all markers are pointing up. It's just I feel like they have a ceiling. I don't know how far they can go.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, you're not expecting them to just take over. I was like, you weren't expecting a fast start from this team. You were expecting there to be some growing pains. So this is a great performance from them, I'd say. Even if it is, sure, they're not competing against European teams. It's all North America, South America, right? You know, that part of the competition. Still, you know, to see them top out like that, good on them. You know, solid work. I mean, you're right. Liquid did have that first place match to settle it, and so Liquid did manage to take that 2-0 and you know, top the group. But you know, top 2 for Evil Geniuses, I think, is a huge success. But yeah, going forward into the main event, I mean, it's a really good point to bring up Automatic, actually, to remind us that, you know, he's still in the mix and he couldn't have that veteran edge to come into it and maybe help them going into this second phase of the tournament. But you know, whether or not they're going to be actually competitive there, I find it hard to believe that they're going to be you know, doing any serious damage. At least that's pretty much it. I mean, and you can kind of say the same thing, actually. Well, I mean, you can kind of say the same thing for the next 2 teams on the list, 9Z and O Nation, where kind of feeling like, you know, 00 Nation, 9Z, they can be a threat. They can maybe, you know, get an upset here or there, but are they going to have a deep run in this event? I don't really watch them for that. It's more the next team down, Furia, that I'm looking at and saying, okay, well, Furia, come on, you got Queserado on this team. Like, anything should be possible for this team. It should still be possible for them to actually get a run going here.
Problem with Furia is they are just wildly inconsistent, even individually this year. And quite frankly, their identity as a team, they just don't have like an edge on anyone anymore. They used to have that really unique playing style that was hard to deal with. You had to figure it out. That's all gone. Like the days when Art was being hailed as some like revolutionary agile, that's years ago at this point in time. His players, like you say, Keserato and Yuri are still really skilled players. You look at the lineup, the Safe guy, he's probably one of the most misused players I've seen. Safe, here's my take for you. No one's had this take yet. Safe in Furia reminds me of Grim in Team Liquid. Like when Grim joined Team Liquid, it's because he was hard carrying Triumph. He was fragging the fuck out. So Liquid was like, bring him on our team. But then they never used him in any way to set him up to be a fragger like that. He just had to take the fucking shit rolls that were left over. Same thing with Safe. He was hard carrying that Pain Gaming team. He looked really fucking good on the AWP. When you watch him play in this particular team, in Furia, he looks like an afterthought who almost just AWPs like one of the, like those players like Farley that are just like, look, you're in the team with the AWP, but we're not going to play around you at all. And so half the time, by the way, he ends up in like the clutch scenarios and the 1v1s, and he's at the back of the round, and it's the others doing all the work. So I feel like he's just not used properly, because when I do watch him play in matches, dude, his actual mousing as an AWP looks really smooth. It looks really good, mate. Like he can hit a lot of the mid-range shots. He looks like he could be a much better player. So I just get the sense, think about that team. That team originally had Abel J years ago, who wasn't a good AWPer. Then they had Henny, who was a good AWPer, but was actually coming off years when people thought he couldn't be a star. And he just sort of somehow like was more bang for your buck than you expect. Then obviously later they made Art the AWPer, which temporarily was okay, but didn't work long term. I don't think it's a team that understands the AWP, Semmler. I think they're a team that is just a rifle team, a bit like Team Liquid, and they're not used to having an AWP. And if they have an AWP, they're not going to set them up like they would a star AWPer and play around them and give them all the resource and let them go to work. So that's one area in Furia. Like I still think that roster never made it much better, even bringing Safe in. It's kind of the same level, and then individual performances being worse this year, they just look like a much worse squad. So I still hold hopes out that they can do upsets at the major. Maybe they could make a playoff run, but I can't see how they can do anything. Like, here's the difference. The last two majors, there's a world where they could have fucked around and been really good and gone much further and actually threatened like top teams. At the moment, Furia just looks a bit whack. Like they've kind of plateaued, and the actual ceiling on the team, they don't reach it very often.
Yeah, that's the concern. I mean, for me, it's still like the standout player on that team is always going to be Kovacevicd, because every time I watch him, he's just doing something crazy. But yeah, it feels like it's safe to say that they're the team to keep an eye on coming out of Brazil. They still are the uncontested team that is going to be doing that's going to be representing Brazil, I think, as the best one there, because I think you would rank them higher than O Nation, at least in a head-to-head sort of fight, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The problem with the O Nation team is like some of the players that they're really relying on aren't even actually that good. Like the problem is they're players who maybe can be good and they show potential to be, but it's like they're not going to do it consistently. Like they have games where they look awesome and they have games where they just look all right. And then the older players, like Paul Zeras sometimes looks like the worst player in the team, mate, or just like a very average player. So the hype around that team, it's harder to build the idea that like they're going to be some special team. I actually think Brazilian Counter-Strike is very lost at the moment. And I don't think, by the way, teams like Imperial are helping matters. But the problem is, the reason I don't totally hate the Imperial project is because, quite frankly, I get the feeling with where he's at in his career, if Fallen retires, I don't think Fur will play it anymore. I think he'll just say fuck it, or I don't think Fur cares about being a top team. Like, I don't know if you saw this.
Say that in the past
when they qualify. He said in 2019 that he was retiring, and then he just said it was a joke. So there you go.
Okay, I thought there was some angle of like he would only play with Fallen or something like that.
I'm not sure about that, because here's the thing. Technically, he was in Imperial before Fallen was. He was actually in a different Imperial lineup that fucking sucked. So that also might be because Fallen just left him high and dry and went to fucking Team Liquid. Because Fallen's a great guy like that, by the way. Just selling your whole country out. He's the Godfather of Brazil. Why would the Godfather? That would be like if in Godfather 3... I mean, actually, the fucking Don Corleone wasn't alive, but if the fucking Marlon Brando character in Godfather 3 went, actually, fuck y'all Sicilians, I'm going to go to Portugal. That wouldn't really be cool, would it? But y'all just forgive him for that too. Give me a fucking break. So anyway, I think, unfortunately, that Fergus, his heart isn't in CS, and he'll turn up for these matches, because this is the narrative. It's, can we make the major? Everyone says we can't. Can we go to a major in Brazil? They say, like, we're not even going to be there. We're going to be in the show. Like that seems to be firing up. That seems to be his edge. But I find it sad. Like he even said in an interview the other day, Semmler, that just making it to the IM Rio major is better than one of the majors that he won Fuck right off. Like, look, you're a sick player, but that is such a stupid comment. That actually implies, by the way, you're not a winner at heart. You're a sick player, but you're not a winner. A winner's all about winning majors, mate, about being at the top of the game, about testing themselves against the best players ever. Because the problem Fur has is, I just did a video on this today about him. He is an infuriating player, mate. He's one of those guys where he could have been so much better than he is. And he could have been so good for he could have been like Nico and just be like the best rifler in the world for like 5 years. That was in his locker. But the problem is, because he has these weird motivation issues, and once he got the money and once he got the majors, he started to not care as much. And then when the team dropped off, it looked like he was just phoning it in, and he wasn't doing the practice hours, and he was even telling people, like, I don't really play CS, and like, lol, and then saying all those like mad inappropriate things about his org on stream, sometimes in English, sometimes in Brazilian, or Portuguese rather. Like, he's just a guy that, he's just got some weird thing about what he cares about in this game. So if it isn't winning, I mean, I don't get what it is. Like, I still like to watch him play, but I hate seeing people waste talent. It's the same feeling I have about Shocks, mate. People don't know how good he could have been. He's already, by the way, Shocks might still be a top 10 player to ever play CSGO. Dude, he had the chance to be number 1. That's not a joke. This guy had everything. His actual game at one point was perfectly complete. He had everything. He could entry. He could win the clutches. He was the mid-round player. He could even secondary call. He could even AWP on the side. Like, someone like that. The joke is, those guys end their career and go, I had a pretty good career, won a major, was in all. It's like, mate, you could have done everything. They could have been talking about, has Simple got to your level? Not is Ziwu better than Simple. The joke is, everyone already put Simple, Ziwu above KDS and Shocks. That's what shows you that these guys slacked, because they both had that insane ability where they could have been at the top. And one thing I'll never forgive French Counter-Strike for, ever in my life, is you had 2 players like that in one scene, and you never even put them together till they were whack. What the fuck is that? That would be like if fucking Nico and, like, let's say, like, Spinks were both from Bosnia, and they just never played together till the end of their careers. Like, come on, put it together, mate. You instantly team up with that guy if you're from a smaller country, don't you? So that's one of the things about those players. Like, Fur's one of those players as well. I think he could have done so much more. So the good upside is this. I would pick him for my Brazilian super team, but I guess he wouldn't play in it, would he? Because he wouldn't want to play for those reasons. So I guess if this is the only reason we still see him play, then I can accept it, even though it's begrudgingly.
It's the angle of one last run with Fallen. I mean, this like it has to be the reason why they've opened it up to like all of the stages of the major now are going to be opened up to the fans, to the audience. So the RMR we're through the RMR, but like the following stages are going to have fans available to like to watch.
Because there's
there's not going to be a single Brazilian team apart from Furia. Making it to the top 8. Like, Furia is probably the only team who can actually have a chance at it.
Oh, they can, but they're not going to probably. Who gives a shit, right? I don't think any Brazilian team's making it. And also, I mean, other people have pointed this out on shows, but I know it because I'm the esports historian. You know that whole narrative, Semmler, like, well, the Brazilian crowd is so passionate, like they fire their teams up, and so they're going to overperform. No, go and look, every tournament ever in Brazil, the Brazilian teams all underperformed and didn't do as well as they could. Like, dude, Furia couldn't even win like tier 2 dream hacks. SK lost to Cloud9. Like, fucking ESL Belo Horizonte, they didn't even make it past Mouse with nothing standing in instead of fucking Oscar. Like, every time they have shit the bed in front of their home crowd. Like, it's been the opposite. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. I have no expectations for the Brazilians. But here's my joke anyway. If you look at the RMR, it shouldn't really come as a surprise that the top Brazilians were barely able to beat Nouns. Have you ever heard them fucking talk? They're like, oh, like fucking, they're all over there. Everything's like fucking, like, it's like there's a famous skit back in the day, or a show called The Fast, or maybe that's not the right one I'm thinking of. Basically, there's a skit back in the day in the UK where he would just sing modern songs, but in the style of a club singer, because obviously you always have some shit club singer who's doing the tour of like the low-level circuit. It's just like, baby, when you let my band. It's like, he doesn't have any singing skills, but just doing, it's all attitude, isn't it? Like, that's how Brazilians even talk, mate. It's mental.
Yeah, okay. But, fuck, now I got sidetracked. You got me on the...
You were talking about all Brazil, the crowd, and how fucking the Brazilian teams might do well or whatever.
I thought that, dude, like going into it, I would just think that the Brazilian fans will make the Danish fans in the Royal Arena look like amateurs. I mean, That is straight up like my assumption going into this event.
In a sense, you're right, because they look like amateurs, because the Danish crowd was mainly like mothers and children and fucking fathers. And they were all just like, I guess we like Astralis, so like fuck heroic. Obviously, yeah, if you want to talk about being professional asshole crowd, the Brazilians take the cake, don't they? They're going to be out there going, people think I'm making this up, go and look. They for real have a chant that they pretend is a joke that is, you will die. And they have another chant, by the way, that they'll never admit. And spoiler, it's bang on in 23+1 territory. Does that give you a little clue? Can you imagine what they might be shouting in that crowd to you as a player when you go there, and what you might like to do with your arsehole? Yeah, think it through. A little bit not PC, that, innit? Yeah. But enough about Brazilian crowds.
They're not going to be translating the crowd mics.
No, exactly.
That's it. Maybe not piping them in too much. Well, that about sums up the RMR, at least. We have, as far as the Americans are concerned, then, I mean, Complexity missing the boat. It's a crying shame. Hopefully, they'll bounce back and we'll see some more from them. But at least, it's shaping up. We got some Brazilian teams. We had the O Nation team. So if you're caring about, like, building up that narrative, right? I don't think that ESL are investing anything in this in terms of, like, actually getting cameras to the O Nation teams or to the Imperial teams and, like, trying to do anything. Although, if I'm not mistaken, shouldn't they be at ESL Challenger? Is it Imperial going to be at Rotterdam?
No. I'm almost certainly not. I'll have a look, but I don't think so.
Is it not? Is it not what I was thinking? What was I thinking? I thought
no. Team 1 is there. That's a Brazilian team. But
yeah, you're gonna have Team 1 there.
Oh, there's another team called Fluxor. They're there too.
They didn't make cut. Okay, no, I thought there was going to be an event actually that ESL had that they would be able to maybe get some B-roll or something going. I'm just wondering, like, if ESL, like, you'd have to think that they're going to try and create some shoulder content around the fact that now you actually have some legendary players that are going to be attending the event. Like, you're going to want to do something to try and build up some hype in the venue, or like a show match or something. I mean, you're familiar with show matches in majors, aren't you? Like, that's something that you've
this is already announced. This is where people don't even follow the news. So I saw, like, Fix Nation from Team Liquid tweeted at Fallen, like, I hope you guys win this last game. You have to win to be there at Rio. It's like, dude, ESL's cynical and already announced ages ago there is going to be a team get right against Team Fallen show match at the major.
Yeah, there you go.
Just so it was guaranteed the guy would be there. Like, that's by the way, that's how little faith ESL had in Fallen and Imperial.
Yeah.
That they were like, what? Can we just actually book like 100% that he's going to be there no matter what? Well, look, what do you mean, man? I am going to make it through the Brazil major. By the way, shall I tell you a little angle no one brought up because it's so fucking whack? You know what? In a movie, Semmler, this would be great. But in real life, this was shit. So Fallen had this whole angle that they only revealed after he qualified. That in a dream, he saw that they'd win in like overtime to qualify. But what he did, are you ready? To make the dream come true, he didn't tell anyone about, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Where's the receipt, homie?
I know, anyone can just say that. And spoiler, here's the thing. Remember, guys, you're going to say, well, what proof could anyone have of a dream? No, you don't need proof. What would make us believe you is a concept called credibility. What it means is how believable are you and what's your track record of telling the truth? Let me see, who would be on my top 5 least truthful CSGO pros of all time? Oh, there we go. Gabriel, Fallen, Toledo. The two-faced. Even his own fans call him two-faced. They just think it's cute. Like, he actually is two-faced. Mate, he's more than two-faced. He's like that fucking, like, what was he call it? The many-faced god out of fucking Game of Thrones. He's just morphing in all the faces. It's fucking insane, isn't it? It's like, what the hell? Fallen? I thought you died already. That was Fallen the librarian. Bad librarian. Haha. Now I am Fallen evil fucking trickster who cons all the young players into playing for me. Well, now I am Team Liquid Fallen. Stewie, why are you being mean to me? I am just a fucking up-and-coming player from Brazil who wishes to make his dreams in fucking America. What's that? Now I'm evil Fallen. Maybe Leaf cheats. Haha. It'd be such a shame if all of my fans went to rid me of this tiresome young 16-year-old NA pro. Haha. Oh, it's not me that's telling him to kill himself. Oh no. I am on Gauntlet's stream. The locks we're in, boys. This is all locks. Oh, now I am Fallen, who's on Twitter that everyone loves. Oh, I'm a great guy. Fallen, you are a legend, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. I will play. I don't know if I am going to be good enough, but I had a dream that I qualified. Shut the fuck up, mate. Shut the fuck up. I'm just done. Like, at this point, it's just WWE, isn't it? Like, fair enough. It's a cool story, but like, where's the substance? Like, show me some shit in the server. Do something at this major. There you go. Do something at this major. If you do, then I'll have to give you the props. If I don't, I'll make skits. I'll do everything, motherfucker.
Dude, this is going to be it. This will be back content for years at that point, because really this is, it's like whenever
Mate, I'm going to be like the fucking... I'm going to be like Little John or something with my skits. I'm going to be like, skit, 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 motherfucker. Skit,
There
skit.
you go.
Goddamn. Whatever. All
right,
my references are to the early 2000s or 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm kind of like, skeet. Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.